So, are you joining the Zoom for the spotlight on? Question mark.
Hey Jordan,
Doing.
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I've been better.
Yeah, I hear that.
Um, but I appreciate you being and everything.
Of course, yeah, happy to be here.
I'm going to make you. No, I'll let you do that. You're okay doing our language test?
Oh yeah, for sure. You just let me know when you're ready for me to start and I'll do that.
Okay. I was just gonna wait for our other co-facilitator to be here.
And are y'all planning to start it at, or were you scheduled for 5:30?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm gonna go off screen until you call me up then.
Sounds great. Hey, Caitlin. Oh, hey, Caitlin. Sorry.
That's okay. I figured it out. It's like, oh, I can register for the thing.
Hey, I'm letting everybody in from the waiting room. Awesome. Hello, welcome, folks. Just letting folks in from the waiting room. Hello, it's nice to see so many familiar faces. I'm gonna go ahead and ask Jasmine to come on screen and do a little language justice.
Sounds good. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine. I'm here on behalf of the CLC to help facilitate a space of language justice, as Jordan mentioned. This is really just so folks can participate in the language of their heart. And so I'll be providing simultaneous interpretation to Spanish this evening. As soon as we finish giving instructions, you will see a globe pop up at the bottom of your screen that says interpretation. If you are joining us from a mobile device, you will see the menu with the three dots that says more. Either way, it's the same. You click into that, you select language interpretation, and then you select the language that you would like to listen in. I ask that y'all please take into consideration your pace and your clarity. Try to speak at a conversational pace. Spanish is longer than English, so it takes longer to say the same things. If y'all have any issues at any point, you can always send me a message on the chat and I will be happy to help that way. I'm going to repeat this in Spanish now. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Yasmín, estoy aquí de parte de la CLC para facilitar un espacio de justicia de lenguaje, como mencionó Jordan. Vamos a proporcionar interpretación simultánea simplemente para que todos puedan participar en el idioma de su corazón o el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos. Para hacer esto, vamos a activar la función de interpretación simultánea en cuanto termine de dar estas instrucciones. En ese momento van a ver un globo en la parte inferior de la pantalla que dice interpretación. Si nos acompaña desde un dispositivo móvil, esta opción se encuentra en el menú con los 3 puntitos que dice More o que dice Más. Igual es lo mismo, si no habla inglés o entiende inglés o prefiere escuchar en otro idioma, por favor elijan ese idioma preferido. Les pido que tengan en mente su velocidad y su claridad. El español es más largo que el inglés, así que toma más tiempo decir las mismas cosas. Y cualquier duda, cualquier cosa que se les ofrezca, me pueden mandar mensaje por el chat y ahí con mucho gusto les puedo apoyar. Me parece que es todo, ya podemos empezar con la interpretación. Okay, I think that's everything. We can go ahead and start interpretation.
Okay. We can just do a little test, maybe. So we'll give folks a second to select your language.
Where is that? Where
Yeah.
do,
So
where,
the
donde?
at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little globe and it says interpretation. And then you just click that and then select the language that you'd like. Erica's giving a thumbs up, so that's good news. Thanks, Erica. All right. Okay. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Garcia. I use he and his pronouns. I work at the American Friends Service Committee, and we try to do a January spotlight on the Colorado State Legislature every year. So I want to be real honest with you all. I am pretty overwhelmed with everything that's going on, as I am guessing that maybe some of you are as well. So I was joking with Caitlin earlier today. We're going to play it fast and loose tonight. We are going to just do the very best we can. And we are going to record this training or this workshop, this spotlight on, so that people who have to leave a little bit earlier or that people who just registered will still get access to this recording. And I believe we will actually also have the recording in English and in Spanish. So, so thank you. I want to introduce my friend and colleague and fantastic all-around boss, Caitlin Trent from Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. And maybe Caitlin, could you just share with us a little bit about CIRC and then a little bit about what you do at CIRC?
Sure. Thanks for the intro. Caitlin Trent, she, her, Aya. I am the political director at the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition and CIRC Action Fund. We are a coalition of member organizations throughout the state that fight for immigrant rights at the local, state, and federal level. We've been around since 2002. When I say CIRC Action Fund, that is our C4, and that's our organization that can legally get involved in electoral organizing and doing endorsements for elections and candidates that you can't do with a regular nonprofit. We have 5 regional organizers throughout the state, Mountains, West Slope, South, North, and Denver. So we try to cover the entire state, but yeah, especially given what's going on right now, it's pretty difficult. My role is to oversee the C3 and the C4, so the election side and the policy side inside the Dome, passing state policy. and trying to make sure that our organizing and our organizing outside the Capitol is in line with our strategy inside the Capitol. And I'll pause there. Thanks, Jordan.
Awesome. So I just dropped this in the chat, but I would love to invite people. I wish we could all introduce ourselves, but I don't think that's a good idea. We have lots to learn tonight. So if you could just introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your pronoun, and your hopes for the legislative session, that would be amazing. I can't guarantee that we will get to every single hope that is out there, but it'll give us a sense of what people really want to hear about. So tonight we have several people who are going to present on several pieces of legislation. And from what I'm thinking, and I think this is what Caitlin is thinking too, is that we're inviting people to share about legislation that might affect the immigrant community in any way. So, so that could be around housing, that could be around just about anything. So, so thank you for being open and excited to hear from our different presenters. Great. Let's see. Caitlin, who should we start with?
Do you want me to give like a quick federal state what Cirque is working on? Or
Yes, that
okay.
would be great. Yes.
Okay, cool. So as many of you probably know, Trump did not waste any time attacking immigrant communities. There were 35 executive orders issued. We are trying to sift through them all. There is a lot. There are some that I think we need to think about and others that have no legal basis, like revoking birthright citizenship. In the chat, I apologize because I believe it's only in English, but I'm dropping in the chat something that helped me. It lists a lot the executive orders that have to do with immigration and like what they really do and how to talk about it with all of the orders coming down. The other big thing from federal that we have our eyes on is the Laken-Riley Act. It has passed the Senate and the House, and we're waiting for Trump to sign it. It basically would revoke due process for immigrants who are charged with petty crime, from anything from petty theft to violent crimes, and where they could then be detained by law enforcement. And again, charged, not convicted of. My understanding is that a lot of what's in Laken-Riley comes into conflict with our state laws and protections. And so again, we're trying to sift through what this would look like in practice. We're pretty sure there's going to be a challenge in the courts against it. So yeah, TBD how this will actually play out. The rule of law and our legal system against Trump. Jordan, should we just do questions at the end or in the chat? Like, I don't know if I should open it up if there are questions on that piece, or I know we have a lot to get through. So.
I think if there's questions on federal, we should go ahead and do those. And then once we move to state, we'll just try to move through.
Okay. Yeah. Are there questions on federal? I don't know if I'll be able to answer it, but we can try.
I guess I have a little bit of a plant of a question. I think Harriet and I are going to go visit with Senator Bennett's staff on Friday. Advice you have for us, things you think we should mention?
For me right now, especially, the Bennett and Hickenlooper they actually voted for really bad amendments that it got included in Laken-Riley, but then voted against the actual bill, but it still passed with Democrat support. The Democrats broke the filibuster to pass this. So Bennett wasn't the ultimate vote that broke the filibuster, but anyway, for me, what I think my main message for Democrats is that they need to stop using the narrative of, well, you can deport the criminals and the good immigrant, bad immigrant framing that is horrific. And we keep hearing Democrats use that. So that would be my advice, is to get people like Bennett to stop using that framing that, well, you're just going to deport the bad ones and the bad ones are the criminals. But there's no like specific legislation that I know right now at the federal level to actively lobby him on at the moment.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. All right. Um, okay. I believe if it's okay, I didn't really give you a bunch of warning, Kate, but Kate is with the Spring Institute and the Colorado Language Access Coalition. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to kick us off with state level legislative efforts.
Yes, I am happy to. Hola, buenas tardes todos. Yo soy Katy. My name is Kate. Apologies in advance. I just got back from walking my dog and he is very excited and really wants to play with me. So he may be barking at me at some point. If that does happen, I apologize. But yes, so as Jordan said, my name is Kate Groyle. I work with Spring Institute for Intercultural Learning, which is a nonprofit based in Denver, Colorado. Have been around since 1979, and we do many, many different things, including direct service support for folks looking for career navigation, for children and youth. And then we also have a large interpretation and translation arm. And I myself am part of our small policy advocacy team. And within that work, we help to lead a few different coalitions. One, as Jordan mentioned, on language access, another led by my colleague Sam on refugee and immigrant mental health, and another led by my colleague Katira on early childhood education and care, particularly for dual language learner children. And so I will first, before I talk about the specific bill that we're working on, I'm going to drop into the chat just some information about the Language Access Coalition for anyone who is interested. Folks are always welcome to join. We always hold our meetings virtually once a month, so it doesn't matter where you are in the state. You are welcome, and we always have Spanish, English interpretation, and always offer the opportunity for folks to request interpretation in other languages as well. So let me orient myself to the 5,000 tabs on my computer and put the information in the chat about that group. And then I will speak about, here we are, the bill. One moment. All right, so the link I'm putting in the chat now is a shared Google folder with some general information about the Language Access Coalition, including flyers and a descriptive overview. So feel free to take a look at that. And then regarding the bill that we are working on, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Oh my goodness, so many tabs. Here we go. And I know we have limited time, so I'll try to do a high-level overview, but happy to answer. I don't know if you need to make me, oh, here we go. Thank you so much. Happy to answer any questions from folks after I do share that high-level overview. So first, there are multiple different steps associated with this effort. And the primary reason for that is, as many of you all know, Colorado is in a tight budget spot right now. And so we had great ambitions originally of really diving in and doing a lot right away. But because of the financial realities that we're facing, it's going to be a gradual process. So I've tried to highlight the main steps in that process here. The first step is something that actually is going to be, is in the process of being initiated, and will sort of start before the bill is actually passed in all likelihood. And I should say this has been a collaborative effort between the Colorado Office of New Americans, the Colorado Department of Personnel and Administration, the governor's office, and advocates like ourselves in the Colorado Language Access Coalition. And then I also want to call out the Colorado Center on Law and Policy, who have been really helping to move this effort forward as well. So all of that said, this first step that is going to start before actual passage of the bill is going to be the creation of a group that will create a statewide language access policy. And that group, called the Interim Language Access Working Group, will be made of state agency folks, will be facilitated by an expert on language access. And there are multiple structured points in that process for this group to collect and incorporate community feedback. And that is information that we are happy to share with you all. That will include meetings with the Language Access Coalition, and anyone is welcome at those meetings, whether or not they're members of the coalition, as well as 2 public comment periods. So that is sort of step 1, creation of this statewide language access policy. Step 2 is where the bill actually comes in, and the bill directs an assessment of how well state agencies are meeting the standards outlined in that policy. And I realize I didn't finish a sentence here. So meet the standards outlined in the language access policy. And then at the end of the assessment, there will be a report that is put out, as well as short translated plain language versions of the report and the findings of that assessment. And then step 3 is the creation of this permanent community of practice, which is a group that will include community members and advocates that will help implement improvements in language access based on the recommendations of the assessment, the findings of the assessment, and based on the pieces and sort of standards within the language access policy. So I know I'm probably close to time. I will pause there. We're very, very close to having a final version of our fact sheet, which we'll share with Jordan in the next couple days, and then you all are welcome to look at that. And we will also have a support form if anyone wants to get involved in this process related to the bill, or generally if you want to be involved in the Language Access Coalition. So I'll stop there.
Great. And Kate, it looks like John is asking what the number of the bill is.
That's a great question. So the bill was going to be introduced last Friday, but I believe it hit just some like logistical snags. And so we're expecting introduction any day now, but we do not have a bill number yet. Obviously, as soon as we have that as well, we will share that with Jordan. So Jordan, you can share it with everyone in the group.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any other questions for Kate? So glad that y'all are doing this. What kind of
It's been
support?
a team effort. Many folks have been involved. Sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, just what kind of support would be helpful from us?
That's great.
Preface that by saying many people in the room are very savvy at the Capitol, and many people are also brand new. But
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. So when we share the final fact sheet, we'll share a form as well that folks can fill out and indicate how or if they want to support. So examples would be something as simple as if you're affiliated with an organization, adding that organization to the fact sheet list of supporters via your organization logo. We also would welcome folks who are interested in providing testimony, whether that be in person or virtual spoken testimony at the Capitol, whether that be written testimony. We would also be very welcome to have folks, write via email legislators who are on certain committees as the bill moves through the legislative process. And then, obviously, should folks be affiliated with an organization that has professional lobbyists on staff or contracted and wants to offer lobbying time, that's always something that we welcome as well. So, really, however folks want to support, we will defer to the leadership of the sponsor in terms of strategy and like how loud or quiet we should be in committee hearings, et cetera. And I should obviously mention the Prime sponsor for this bill in the House is Representative Elizabeth Velasco.
Oh, great. We are big fans of hers.
Likewise, yeah.
Great. Any other questions folks have for Kate? Great. Well, we are so glad to have you, Kate. And I did want to go ahead and pass the mic over to Dana Steiner with the Colorado Freedom Fund, who's going to share a little bit with us also.
Hi, y'all. Thanks, Jordan. My name's Dana Steiner. I use they, them, AA pronouns, and I am policy counsel with Colorado Freedom Fund. For those of you who aren't familiar with CFF, we are the state's only criminal legal bond fund. So we don't pay immigration bonds, but we do pay criminal bonds, which we know sometimes impact folks' immigration status. And we've been around since 2018. And more recently, we have developed a policy arm, which includes me, and you may be familiar with Rebecca Wallace. She's our policy director. And so in the past couple of years, our overall arching goal is to end cash bond in Colorado, but we've been doing some building block type stuff along the way. And in the meantime, we want folks to get out in whatever way they can from jail, and also to stay out of jail, to get people out, to keep them out, and to prevent them from going in the first place. So I'm just going to share my screen now and tell you guys quickly about two bills that we are working on this session. The first one is actually moving along pretty quickly. It just passed the House unanimously yesterday. So it is headed to the Senate, but this is House Bill 1015, and it is clarifications to online bond pay. Online bond pay has actually been in Colorado law for the last 3 years, but it's not working in most places, and it's just not accessible to folks. So this bill puts some guardrails onto it, and really hopefully makes it true that folks can indeed pay bond online without traveling to the jail. And like I said, it's moving quite quickly. So, and we're not asking for any additional support just because it's been moving so quickly. But this next one, which has not been introduced yet, is a bigger lift. And we do anticipate wanting support from y'all in various ways. And I'll talk about that at the end. But this is the Municipal Court Fairness and Transparency Bill. Like I said, it has not been introduced yet. We do anticipate that it will be introduced any day now, kind of similar to what Kate was saying. And this bill does 4 things generally. It eliminates sentence disparities, meaning in state court, folks face less time in jail than they do if they're charged with the exact same crime in municipal court. And so this bill would eliminate those disparities and bring the maximum sentence that municipal courts can impose down to 10 days for things that the state doesn't already charge. It also will improve transparency. There's quite a number of municipal hearings that are not open to the public for various reasons. Sometimes it's just some of their hearings, sometimes it's a lot of their hearings, but this bill will make it so that if a municipal court is jailing folks, then the public needs to be able to see the hearings of those folks that are jailed. The third thing it does is increase access to defense attorneys. There's several, at least, municipal courts that have no indigent defense available to people who are charged and in jail. And there are others that make them semi-available or only available for one hearing. So this will bring municipal courts closer in alignment with what happens at state courts, where people do have defense attorneys available to them if they are facing jail time. And then the last thing that it does is introduce some requirements so that municipal courts can't keep pushing off their cases. This happens a lot, that municipal courts are the very last charge that people are trying to face, people are facing, even if they've served all of their time. So how do we think these bills will impact immigrant families and communities? Here's a few ways. And online bond pay really decreases the need for folks to go to a jail to post in person, which is the only way that most people can post bond right now. And oftentimes jails are at the courthouses, near the courthouses. And I think we all know that there's a lot of increased fear around immigration enforcement in those locations right now. It also will apply a 6-hour release timeline. So once folks post bond online, the 6-hour clock starts ticking and people will need to be released. Sometimes that's not enough to avoid ICE interaction, but we're hoping that for some folks it will be enough. And then I mentioned that the municipal courts bill will decrease those sentences for municipal charges. And for some folks, that will have significant impacts on immigration status. So that 6-month mark is really important. And this bill will take a lot of offenses from 364 days down to 10 days, well below the 6-month mark. I'm sure that immigration attorneys can tell you a lot more about that than me. And that's why we want immigration attorneys who partner with defense attorneys to be available to folks so they can give true, accurate, real immigration advisements to people so that they don't take pleas that then affect them later down the line. So there's one more thing that I will flag for you all. And this is a bill that we will be opposed to. It has not been introduced yet, and we are anticipating it will be introduced in the next couple weeks. This is a rollback on bond reform that happened back in 2019. The bill passed back then that made it so folks who are charged with the absolute lowest level offenses, petty offenses, traffic infractions, cannot be held on cash bond and they must be released. And we are, like many other states across the country, we are seeing an attempt to roll that back. And of course, when those rollbacks happen and when people have cash bonds set for very low level offenses, it is poor folks, it is unhoused folks that can't afford the bond and that just end up sitting there in jail much longer than they would have ever even served on the offense or pleading out. Those are our 3 things that we are working on that we think have a lot of impacts for immigrant families and communities. I am going to put into the chat 2 links to forms. If you are interested in the municipal courts bill, these forms are a way to tap in and get involved. Once the bill is actually introduced, we will send out plenty more communications. It will have the fact sheet, it will have the actual bill language. But if this is something near and dear to your heart, please go ahead and opt in now, both in English and in Spanish. That form is available. Here's our social media and my email address. And yeah, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dana, I have a question. With the online bond pay,
Yeah.
so the way that it works right now is that basically ICE has the same information that anyone can get off the internet of like when someone will be released.
Mhm.
Would the online bill pay and that 6 hour window change that at all, or would that be the same? Do you know anything?
This won't impact any information sharing. I do know that. Uh, but yeah, this won't impact any information sharing. I can say that. And I'm not sure what the exact time span for different jails, but I do think the 6 hour timeline is less in a lot of places once they do get the bond payment. It's also more in plenty of places because we know that sheriffs are not always capable of following the law.
Capable, unwilling.
Etc.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions for Dana? Also, feel free to come off mute and ask a question. I heard you say that having people sign on as supporters with these links is a helpful move. Is there anything else that would be helpful in your efforts?
This forum is kind of the central hub for us. So if you get down to the end of it, there's actually quite a number of ways that we're hoping that folks would be interested in supporting. So if you're interested in testifying, if you want to write to legislators, if you're interested in writing op-eds or posting on social media, all of those things are there for you to opt into. And as soon as this bill is introduced, we'll reach out to those folks who have tapped in. Thanks, Jordan.
Amazing. Did you say, I'm sorry if I missed it, did you say when you think it might be introduced?
We think this week. So tomorrow, Thursday.
Okay, so urgency for go ahead and fill out that form, folks. Well, thank you so much, Dana. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm just thankful that you invited us to present, Jordan, and really appreciate the space and excited to learn from everybody else.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to have people on here who want to pitch in. Um, great. And I believe it is time to go ahead and pass the mic over to Mariah Guerrero with Color.
Thank you, Jordan. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all here this evening. Thank you, Jordan and Caitlin, for inviting us to participate tonight and to share more about the amazing work that Color is doing. For those of you who don't know, the Color is the Colorado Organization for Latina Opportunity and Reproductive Rights, and I am our policy manager. We are a community-rooted nonprofit organization that works to enable Latina individuals and their families to lead safe, healthy, and self-determined lives. We are a reproductive justice organization, but we know that reproductive justice is an intersectional movement that overlaps with other policy issue areas like housing justice, economic justice, and immigration justice. And like many of you, I am also feeling overwhelmed about what we're already seeing and what's ahead, but we have to remind ourselves that this is our chance and our time to fight back, to advocate, and to make our voices heard. Color, in partnership with Cobalt, is running our reproductive rights and justice legislative package, which is 3 bills that will help ensure that every Coloradan can access the care that they deserve. I don't have slides like Kate and Dana, but I'm very excited to share more about our work and what we're going to be doing this legislative session. So our first bill is to honor the vote and implement abortion access for all. This past November, 62% of Colorado voters voted in support of our ballot measure, Amendment 79, or Abortion Access for All. The choice of Colorado voters to enshrine abortion in the state constitution is a reflection not only of our community power, but also it was a very clear call to action for our community. What this bill does is honor the vote of Colorado voters, but also update the law in a very straightforward way. This bill lifts the state ban on using public funds to cover abortion care and will ensure that all Coloradans have access to abortion care, regardless of the type of insurance coverage that they have. This includes community members with coverage through Health First Colorado, Cover All Coloradans, and the Reproductive Healthcare Program. And these programs are for income eligible members of immigrant communities who use them to access healthcare services. Our second bill is to ensure emergency care access. Coloradans must be able to get the emergency care that they need, and this includes pregnant people who need abortion or miscarriage care. We are running this bill because federal law with life-saving protections is under attack, and we know the consequences of this can be deadly. If we look at other states like Georgia, Texas, or Indiana, we can see that pregnant women have lost their lives because they were denied care. This bill will require that emergency care be provided to all patients in Colorado. It also prohibits hospitals and emergency departments from denying or discriminating in delivering emergency care to patients based on the type of care that they need, the type of insurance that they have, and their ability to pay for their immigration story. And then our third bill, which I won't share as much about, but just a quick overview, is to strengthen Colorado's SHIELD law to protect providers and patients when seeking necessary and legally protected healthcare. Other states have no right to impose their restrictive laws on Coloradans, and we know what kind of care people here in Colorado deserve, and we must continue to protect that freedom. Right now, our bills have not been introduced, but they are scheduled to be introduced in the Senate very soon. So please stay tuned for more updates and ways to take action on our bills. Since our bills have not been introduced yet, I don't have bill numbers, but Jordan, I'll be happy to share those with you as a follow-up so that way you all have them as well. I can also share our fact sheets with you if you're interested in learning more about our bills or if you want to support our bill package. I'm going to put my email in the chat for all of you, so please feel free to reach out. Opportunities to get involved right now and ways for you to support us. We are looking for voceros or storytellers to testify on our bills and share their own lived experience. We're also looking for policy advocate volunteers. If you're looking to get more involved in the reproductive justice space and with Color specifically, we are looking for policy volunteers. And these are opportunities for you to help our organization and to help in our policy work. No experience is required, and we can definitely connect you to an opportunity that feels like the best fit for you, depending on your experience, your background, and where you see yourself helping. So please just reach out and I can share more information with you. The other thing I wanted to leave you with is our toolkit for you to contact your state representative and senator and tell them to protect Colorado's affordable healthcare programs. We know that right now state lawmakers are currently discussing the budget and they're considering massive cuts to some of our most essential programs. And we need your voice in advocating for these programs that support kids, families, pregnant people, low-income Coloradans, and the immigrant community. Lawmakers must understand that the state budget cannot sacrifice Colorado families and their health. So please urge your senator and representative to protect affordable healthcare programs. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you all. It walks you through 3 different steps to take action. So first, finding your elected officials, your state senator and representative, and then we included some sample messages that you can use when reaching out to your members. And I'll also put my email in the chat here for you all if you'd like to learn more about our bill package or ways that you can get involved. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for
Maren.
joining us tonight.
There was a quick question in the chat.
Yes.
Rick was asking, does this emergency care include those who have no insurance?
It does. So we know that people have been turned away in the past because of their lack of insurance coverage, and emergency departments are required to treat patients regardless of if they have insurance coverage or not, or their ability to pay. So this bill would protect those folks as well.
Awesome. Good to know. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Mariah? Amazing. So we will, yeah, we'll be able to share some information with you all by email, with the recording from this spotlight on. And if it's okay with you, Caitlin, I will pass the mic to you, to bring us home.
All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over some immigration related bills. I'm gonna put the Spanish slide up and speak in English. I do have slides in both. If Jordan, I don't know if I should send you the slide deck or whatever after this.
Put it in the follow.
Okay, great. So first thing, as several folks have mentioned, we know that the budget is tight to say the least this year. And so we are trying to defend the Cover All Coloradans, CAC, and the Immigrant Legal Defense Fund. We've been told that we don't need to worry about the Immigrant Legal Defense Fund. I'm gonna have eyes on it until it is like signed and locked in for sure. The Cover All Coloradans seems far more precarious. And so if you have any contacts with the Joint Budget Committee and want to pressure them to make sure that a version of the Cover All Coloradans is included in the final budget, that would be helpful. The next piece is we are working with Reps Garcia, Velasco, and Senator Gonzalez on a immigrant protection bill. We don't have bill language yet. We're not sure when it's going to be introduced. And we've been in several conversations, and we want to both protect immigrants given the federal climate and the attacks coming, but also make sure that we can defend a law and enforce it in the courts. The general ideas that are going to be included, from my understanding, is strengthening statutes, specifically data privacy loopholes, and making sure that there's more enforcement for sharing data privacy with ICE, or sorry, sharing data with ICE. Codifying safe zones. We know that DHS and Trump have gotten rid of the internal policies of staying away from schools, hospitals, churches, and so we're going to try to codify into law that they can't conduct ICE activity in those areas. And then the final piece that I think is going to be included is trying to demand that ICE only operate with a warrant signed by a judge. As all of you likely already know, usually ICE does not have warrants signed by a judge when they are conducting raids and picking people up. And so trying to enforce that and codify it. The last part that is on our radar is defending anti-immigrant legislation. There was a reintroduction of a Show Me Your Papers bill, which we defeated back in 2013. It's SB 47. For those not familiar, Show Me Your Papers is where law enforcement can pull someone over and demand to see their immigration documentation. So we're not worried that it's going to pass, but we really want to make a strong testimony and make sure that there's a nail in the coffin for this coming back, that Colorado does not want to see a Show Me Your Papers law here in the state. We're feeling good about the testimony that we have, but if anyone on this call, especially if you had previous experience with the last version of Show Me Your Papers and feels really strongly about why it was so horrible, you can feel free to reach out to me and we can see if you would want to testify. And I will stop there. Are the courts, I'm just reading the question in the chat. Are the courts included in safe zones? So right now, already, it is illegal for ICE to pick people up at courthouses or to a courthouse or back from a courthouse appointment. That's already law. However, we know that that's not being enforced, and ICE is picking people up at courthouses. So I think it's more of an enforcement problem, and courthouses should already be off limits for ICE in Colorado.
Great question, Maureen. Other questions for Caitlin? things that we can do to be supportive of these efforts, Caitlin?
Yeah, I think we'll know a lot about the pro-immigrant bill. I think we'll know a lot more once we see bill language, once we know when it's going to be introduced, once we know which committee and all of that. And then I would have a lot more concrete steps for you all. If you aren't plugged into our social media or our newsletter at CERC, that would be a helpful place to stay up to date on notifications of what's moving. Yeah, so I don't have, for the legislative piece, I don't have a ton yet. I'm gonna have more details soon to come. And I put my email in the chat if anyone wants to speak directly.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, other questions that people have generally about the process of advocating for a bill or lobbying, or if anyone would like to share their experience lobbying at the state capitol, I think that would be really insightful for people who have never done it before. I will go ahead and share a little bit on my experience. I've done so many organizations, many social justice organizations, like our two organizations and other ones, including like Together Colorado, will oftentimes have like an advocacy day. And in fact, Color is a big part of the reason why we have a Latino Advocacy Day. Mariah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll ask you in a minute if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about Latino Advocacy Days. You do not have to be Latino to go to Latino Advocacy Days, but several years ago, I went to, actually just last year, I went to Latino Advocacy Days. And what was really special is we were able to bring some folks in from a rural community in Fort Morgan. And we were able to bring some of our member leaders from our immigrant-led group, the Not One More Deportation group out of Fort Morgan. Lulu, actually, if anyone knows her, was able to go with us to visit with several of her policymakers, her elected officials at the state capitol. And many of those elected officials have rarely seen their constituents inside the capitol. Folks in Denver, we always want you to come out and turn out to be to come and lobby when you can. But it was really, really powerful for these particular policymakers to hear from people who live in their districts. So what she did is she actually was able to speak with both, I believe both of her both her senator and her representative, and was able to talk to them about the bills that were most important to her. And it was really amazing the way that this policymaker took time out, because he rarely sees people from his district. So he took time out, he left his desk, he stood and he talked with us for a solid 20 minutes. And I think it was a very impactful experience for Lulu and for myself to see, her just like really own her voice and own her perspective and share her analysis of the bills that we were talking about that day. So just a reminder, I think for myself it was, and for all of us, that that's our house. The state capitol is our state capitol. And when we show up and we make it ours, it makes it stronger. So I'll say that. And then Mariah, if you want to share a little bit about Latino Advocacy Days, I'll drop the link in the chat if you'd like.
Yep, happy to do that. I have the chat ready. But just going back to what you said, Jordan, the Capitol really is the people's house. And if you haven't lobbied before or you haven't testified on a bill, I always tell people that it's important to remember that you are the expert of your own lived experience and of your own story. You know better than anyone how these issues affect you, how they affect your community, how they affect your family, and you're the voice that elected officials need to hear from. Some of them are not experts in these issues. Some of them have no background or experience with some of these things, and that's why they need to hear from you and why you are such a valuable voice. So what we do with Latino Advocacy Day is we bring together over 400 people from across the state, and over a 3-day weekend and Monday, we provide different sessions and panels for people to learn more about the legislative process, how they can use their story to be part of change in the legislative process, but also different policy issue areas like immigration or reproductive justice. And on the final day, that Monday, everyone has the opportunity to work with a lobby lead, and you'll go to speak with your elected officials and tell them about the issues that you care about and why you feel that they should take a certain position or not. So that's happening this year from March 15th through the 17th, and registration is open now. There's a $5 registration fee, but we welcome everyone to participate. We want to make this opportunity as accessible to people as we can. And of course, happy to answer any questions or share more information if you would like to participate or learn more.
Great. Thank you so much, Mariah. Does anyone want to share an experience that they've had lobbying? Looking at some of you, I know have done it lots.
I'll share a brief experience just from today. The one thing that I think legislators forget that real people care about the things that are happening at the Capitol. I think that it's really easy to go into the building with all of its marble and the brass fixtures and everything and kind of disconnect and get into the chaos. But today we sat down with a legislator and they just listened. They have a lot of questions, and just really want to echo what Jordan was saying, that, or maybe I think it was Mariah, sorry, Mariah, that you are the expert of your own lived experience, and not a single one of those legislators has your lived experience. It's lobbying sounds really big, but it is really just standing in a corner with a legislator and a group of people and talking to them. It's kind of like water cooler talk, but you have a little bit of an agenda. So I'd say they really do listen, especially on lobby days. Lobby days, I think they might not admit it, but I think legislators actually really like lobby days.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, Rick, did you want to share something? You came off mute.
Oh, no, I did. I forgot to put myself back on.
No problem. I don't want to call anyone out necessarily, but Pabiolo, you've done a lot of lobbying. David, Harriet. Probably hear from one more person.
If nobody else wants to talk, my name is Mary, and I am retired now, but when I was working as a union electrician, we did a lot of lobby days at the Capitol, and I would just like to say that it is definitely a place that you can get heard, even if the legislature doesn't really care for your particular position. It's respectful, and you hope that maybe you can get one little new idea in, but it's definitely well worth it. And I would do it again, even though I'm retired. That's it.
That's great. Absolutely. I'll say we have had policymakers, legislators be very excited to hear from teachers, to hear from parents, to hear from doctors and lawyers, sure, but really just like everyday folks. They're really excited to hear about how we believe the policy that they spend all day thinking about, how it will affect real people. So yeah, let that be word to the wise. Well, thank you all so much. I didn't know if we would be able to like to kind of tie things up in the hour. But I think we are able to do that. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you all so much for being here. And I would invite you at this point to come on camera and wave and say hello to the humans that make up the world that we are trying to build. Yes, thank you so much to all of our presenters. Just really appreciate all of you. Again, I'll send the recording out and links to anyone registered. So feel free to forward it also.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan.
Gracias. Gracias. Chao.
All right, hasta pronto.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.